going to get into tools and equipment that Laura here would recommend in a photographer toolkit. Now, this is geared at someone who is just starting out. So for those of you that have been doing photography for a long time, this isn't necessarily aimed at you. So if someone was just starting out, obviously they need a camera.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into that, what just business tools do they need?
Well, I mean, like besides the camera and the lens, of course, you're going to need a computer to edit on. And I started out with just a laptop for that. Did all my editing and had all my software on there. You'll need a professional email address, obviously.
Very important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and not just doing something at Gmail. Like, it's really not expensive to get your own domain and to get your own email at that.
Yep. So I just pay yearly for my domain, I guess my server, and then
do you know who you go through for that?
I use GoDaddy for my domain, I believe.
That's what I do as well.
My brother, who's graphic designer, does my website for me, so he kind of helps me take care of all that because it confuses me. But then, of course, so my email address is just linked to that, and then I do have a Gmail too, and they all kind of link together.
Right.
So, but yeah, the professional one that I give out is just my website. So.
Do you know what he builds the website on? Like what service?
No, I don't.
No? Okay. What about you? In our previous video, you mentioned accounting. What accounting software do you use?
I use QuickBooks. And I have like an app on my phone, and then I use it to kind of scan receipts and things. Because like I said before, I am a creative mind, so sometimes I'm not as organized with things. And then I use the Mile IQ app on my phone as well. So
what does that do?
That tracks my mileage.
Okay.
So pretty much, I mean, you always have your phone on you, so it just detects every time you're in the car and you're moving.
Right.
And then I go through about once a month, and you can just classify the drives as business or personal.
So I have QuickBooks self-employed, and it has that feature
yes, it links to that.
And oh my gosh, I forget to go through and
classify them.
Yes, and so then every 3 weeks I'm going through
it's a lot.
Personal, work, personal, and then I have to click and say, if it's work, I have to say, what was it? Was it a client visit? Was it
okay?
And I'm like, I just need to swipe.
As soon as you do it. Well, you can also set it up so if every time I go to my kids' school, I do that obviously twice a day, it automatically knows that it's personal.
Oh, that's nice.
It detects where I'm going, and so I don't have to classify that. So if you have places that you go repeatedly,
that's nice.
You can set it up for that too. But yeah.
Do you have any other apps on your phone that you use for your business?
Yes. Well, I have my print company app that I use. I have a app that tells me what time the sun sets, so I can put in any day. I use that pretty much every single day.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because if I'm scheduling a wedding that's a year out, I can easily just look up and see what time the sun sets, and then I work with my bride and groom to help set ceremony times and that sort of thing. And even if I have a session that I'm scheduling 6 months out, we can look up and I can say it'll be about this time, because the sunset time and my session times change drastically throughout the year.
Right.
So I use that, and then I also have a white noise app that I use when I'm doing newborns in the studio. So
yes,
she's amazing with newborns. So
I remember bringing, I think it was my daughter, and both my husband and I afterwards were like, how did she do that? She held her like this, and she did this thing, and we were trying to figure it out. At home, she was the baby whisperer. It was amazing.
Oh, well, she was a good baby, so
again, I'll probably put the photo in here somewhere.
Oh yes, I remember that vividly.
No, I need to get them back here. Okay, so those are apps on your phone. What about editing software?
For editing, I use the Adobe Creative Suite, which is really convenient now because instead of having to buy a really expensive program and updating it, it's just all online, I guess. And download it on your computer.
Cloud.
Yes, the cloud or whatever.
Creative Cloud,
yes, that's what it's called. The Creative Cloud. And so it's constantly updating.
Well, and
Sometimes.
there's an actual, I remember because I actually just recently was looking into what software I wanted to do, and there's a photography pack for it that's less expensive. Now, unfortunately, I needed more things
stuff
than what was just in that, and it was like you could pick photography pack or you had to pick the entire thing, and so
yeah,
I had to go for it. But
that's handy. So out of that creative suite, I use Adobe Bridge is what I cull my images in, which that means you load the whole session and then you pick the ones you're going to edit. So I cull in there and then I pull them into Adobe Camera Raw because I shoot raw files, and that just does the initial processing and turns them into JPEGs, and then I pull them into Photoshop and do my finishing, which I don't do a lot in Photoshop anymore. I used to do extensively everything in Photoshop, and it took forever. So these have really streamlined my workflow. So yeah, that's pretty much what I use for editing.
Okay. You said after raw it goes where?
Bridged to raw to Photoshop.
Oh, okay. And then do you do a lot of presets or do you do it all manually?
I use presets, and then I have my customizations to the presets I use.
Right. You've probably created your own.
Yeah. So pretty much I have my own recipes, I guess I call them, in Camera Raw and in Photoshop. So.
Okay. And then, I guess on to equipment. So let's go over what camera and lens that you have or that you work with the most. Okay. And then if somebody, because I assume somebody just starting out probably wouldn't be able to afford that level of camera. What is a good entry level camera? Okay.
I currently use I shoot all Canon gear. Well, mostly. My camera body is a Canon, Mark III. And then I have I have a Mark II and, a 60 that are my backups, but I hardly ever use them. I guess if you're shooting a wedding or something, you always need to have two bodies or have a backup. And then the lens I currently use on everything is a 35, a Canon 35. And then I also have a Sigma 35 because I'm trying to decide which I like better. So I'll be selling one of those soon. But I used to shoot with a Canon 50 1.2 pretty much since I started. I think I got it like my third year, which it was a pricey lens, but I've used it for a long time. So I just
price
recently
per use. It's the same rule I use with shoes.
Yeah. So it definitely, and I mean it still works great and I have it, but I just wanted to change my focal length. So I shoot all primes. So the 35 is still a prime lens, but it just gives me a little more when I'm working with families and even in my studio with newborns. So I'm really liking
What's your reasoning for shooting all prime?
Just the glass is amazing, and I shoot wide open, which means at a really low aperture. So primes are just good for that, and that's just kind of the look and the style I've had since the beginning. So
right. Okay, and then so someone just starting out with, what do you think?
Just pretty much when I started out, I started with a Canon Rebel, and I think they still make Rebels. I mean, I haven't researched lately, but I mean, it's a really good entry level DSLR camera with changeable lenses. So I started with the Rebel and it's called the Nifty 50 lens. So it's a Canon 50. It's just got a little bit higher aperture, I think 1.8, which is still a pretty good if you're you know, wanting the creamy bokeh effect that everybody wonders how you get. So, and I think the Nifty 50 is like, it was under $100 when I bought it. So that's
really?
Like amazing. I don't know if it still is, but so I would definitely recommend that grouping for someone just starting out in portrait photography.
Well, and even if they can't afford maybe something the next step up, if they are going to do an event that requires two people, then that might be a good backup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Well, what about props? How do you just find props everywhere?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Online, of course, there's tons of shops that, I mean, depending on what you're wanting as far as newborn, pretty much the only time I use props really is for newborns. But like headbands, hats, wraps, Etsy, of course, is usually where I get all of those things.
Well, you even have a closet of
Yes, a
dresses,
client closet of dresses,
which I've been oogling over.
Yes, so anytime I see a beautiful dress that's, kind of timeless, neutral colors, whatever, I buy it and add it to my client closet. So moms, and maternity clients, people that don't want to, buy a dress just to wear for one time can wear. So yeah, I have that. And then just anytime in like a antique store or something like that, I'm always looking for wood crates and baskets. I just went to a store here in town yesterday because I had a studio session and found some cute little Christmas props for that. So
Right. And then I'm assuming you have to rotate those
mm-hmm.
out. So do you sell them off after a while, or
I try to.
And do you how do you go about doing that?
Usually just like Facebook. There's lots of groups for prop destashing. It's what it's called.
Oh, okay.
So you can load photos of what you're destashing and other people.
So that actually might be somewhere that someone just starting out could look.
Yeah. Actually, if you don't want to pay full price for something, usually, newborn props, like little newborn outfits that I use, are only used a couple times, and everything's usually in good shape. So that's a good place to look.
Right. Okay. Well, is there anything else that you can think of? Tools or equipment?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So basically, get yourself a nice computer, get yourself some editing software and a nice camera and a lens, and you're good to go.
Yep, I think so.
All right. Well, if there's anything that we missed that you're wondering about, please feel free to leave us a comment, and I will make sure Laura sees it and can help me answer those questions. And thank you for watching.